It's March 9th, 1945, 10:30 p.m. in Tokyo's Shitamachi district. Air raid sirens are wailing across the dark capital. This is over the 100th alert since November 1944. Most people in the packed wooden neighborhoods brush off the warning, just like they did with the others. American B-29s usually fly 30,000 feet up, dropping bombs that barely hit their military targets. But tonight? It's going to be totally different. Over the next 3 hours, 279 Boeing B-29 Superfortresses will drop 1,665 tons of incendiary bombs on Tokyo. Between 83,000 and 100,000 people will die, making this the deadliest air raid in human history. Survivors won't just watch their capital burn. They'll see Japan's last hopes of winning the war crumble away. Now, these bombers aren't flying at 30,000 feet. They're low, only 5,000 to 9,000 feet up. Most of their defensive guns are stripped off so they can carry as many bombs as possible. And those bombs? M69 napalm cluster bombs, built specifically to start firestorms in cities made of wood and paper. American planners have been studying Tokyo's weaknesses for months. They even tested incendiary weapons on replica Japanese buildings in Utah's Dugway Proving Ground. By the end of the night, 267,171 buildings will be destroyed, over 1 million people left homeless, and Japan will face the brutal truth: their enemy has way better technology and industrial power. Here's the story behind the tactics. Major General Curtis LeMay arrived in the Mariana Islands in January 1945, tasked with fixing the failing strategic bombing campaign. The B-29s were fancy. Each cost $639,188, more than a warship, but their high-altitude precision bombing wasn't working. Jet stream winds up to 250 miles per hour scattered bombs miles off target, and clouds and mechanical issues kept messing things up. So LeMay made a risky call. On March 8th, he told his commanders about a new plan that would change aerial warfare forever. B-29s would fly at night, low to the ground, carry incendiary bombs instead of high explosives, and dump extra guns to carry more payload. LeMay was so unsure about the plan that he didn't tell his boss, General Henry Hap Arnold. Later, he admitted he wanted to protect Arnold from blame if it failed. The target was picked carefully: Shitamachi, a 10.1 square mile area packed with wooden buildings and 750,000 people. Analysts from the Office of Strategic Services used pre-war Japanese insurance maps and building surveys to find the most vulnerable spots. They also knew the March 9th winds, 17 to 28 miles per hour, would spread fires fast. Let's fast forward to the night itself. At 12:08 a.m. on March 10th, Pathfinder B-29s reached Tokyo at 7,000 feet. Searchlights lit them up clear. They were so low, people on the ground could see the crew in the glass noses. The Pathfinders dropped M47 incendiary bombs in an X pattern, targeting the dense working-class areas near the Sumida River. Then the main force came in waves over 3 hours. Out of 334 B-29s that joined the mission, 279 successfully dropped their bombs. Each carried about 6 tons of incendiaries, mostly E-46 clusters with 38 M69 napalm bombs each. These bombs, made by Standard Oil Development Company, were designed to punch through Japanese tile roofs, spray napalm that stuck to anything, and couldn't be put out with water. Within 30 minutes, small fires merged into a firestorm. Superheated air created its own wind system. Ground winds hit over 100 miles per hour, temperatures reached 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, and the updrafts were so strong they tossed 140,000-pound B-29s around like leaves. That's not just a story. Tail gunners from the 52nd Bombardment Squadron talked about it in military archives. Survivors' stories are haunting. Haruyo Nihei was 8 years old then. She later said, "There was a strong wind that night. When I came out of the shelter, all I saw was fire. Burning clothes, tatami mats, and debris were blowing down the road, like a river of fire."
Isa o babi on fire on a moderes back. Isa o children on fire, sti running.
Yoshiko Hashimoto, a 24-year-old mom, survived with her baby but lost her parents and sister. She jumped into the Sumida River to escape the heat. "My mother took off her protective hood and put it on my head," she remembered. "I floated to a raft and laid my baby down. His eyes were wide open. I was scared he was dying." Katsumoto Satomu was 12 during the raid. He later founded a center to collect survivor stories. "The B-29s dropped bombs that sounded like rain," he said. "I couldn't believe how intense it was. My parents died in the fire. For us survivors, the post-war never really ended." The official response from Tokyo was devastating. Police chief reports from different wards painted a picture of total disaster. The Tokyo Fire Department's March 10 report, classified as most secret until 1952, said 96 fire trucks were destroyed, 88 firefighters confirmed dead, 37 missing, and firefighting efforts were useless. Water evaporated before it reached the flames. They initially estimated 80,000 dead, later revising it to 83,793 confirmed deaths. 267,171 buildings were gone, 1.8 million people homeless, and 15.8 square miles of the city completely burned to the ground. These numbers come from Tokyo's official records, checked by both Japanese and American historians. Emperor Hirohito's reaction was a turning point. His Privy Seal Keeper's diary, preserved and translated, says that on March 18, 1945, the emperor made an unprecedented 6-hour tour of the destroyed areas. When he got back, he said, "The war must end as soon as possible." Witnesses, including former Prime Minister Prince Kono Fumimaro, said the emperor was visibly shaken. After that, he started looking for ways to end the war, though it would take 5 more months and 2 atomic bombs for Japan to surrender. The Japanese military knew they were helpless. A March 15, 1945 report from Imperial General Headquarters analyzed the raid. Enemy achieved a 36-to-1 casualty ratio. They destroyed 50.8 square kilometers with 1,665 tons of incendiaries. Enemy can wipe out all major cities with current B-29s. No way to stop them. Admiral Somu Toyoda, head of the Naval General Staff, thought even if America had atomic weapons, they couldn't have many, so Japan should keep fighting. He was wrong, but it shows the conventional bombing alone was catastrophic. From the American side, General Curtis LeMay later said, "We scorched, boiled, and baked more people in Tokyo that night than died in Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined." The moral weight wasn't lost on planners. Robert McNamara, who worked as a statistical analyst for LeMay, said in a documentary, "LeMay told me, if we'd lost the war, we'd all be prosecuted as war criminals." And I think he was right. American air crews were shocked too. Major Thomas Power, leading the 314th Wing, reported, "The whole city was below us like a pot of boiling tar." The U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey, done right after the war with full access to records, documented the firestorm's details. Center temperature 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit 980 degrees Celsius. Winds over 100 miles per hour. Firestorm lasting 6 hours. 15.8 square miles destroyed, 267,171 buildings gone. 83,793 confirmed dead, likely over 100,000 total, 40,918 injured, 1.8 million homeless. These are the most reliable stats we have, from American forces working with Japanese officials. This raid wasn't a one-time thing, it started a systematic campaign. On March 11th, Nagoya lost 2 square miles. March 13th, Osaka lost 8.1 square miles. March 16th, Kobe lost 3 square miles. March 19th, Nagoya got hit again, losing another 3 square miles. By the end of the war, B-29s had attacked 66 Japanese cities, destroying 178 square miles of urban area and killing 300,000 to 400,000 civilians. The industrial hit was huge. Tokyo's production dropped 50%, 22,000 skilled workers died, over 1,400 small factories were destroyed, 50% of transportation infrastructure was gone, and power generation fell 73%. Even Mitsubishi's aircraft engine works, never directly hit, stopped production because 60% of workers were dead or homeless, and subcontractors were gone. The technological gap was massive. Japanese documents captured after the war show they knew it. America made 100 B-29s a month, Japan only 200 fighters total a month. B-29s could fly 31,000 feet. Most Japanese fighters couldn't reach that. Japan had almost no radar-directed guns or effective night fighters. B-29s had pressurized cabins, centralized fire control, radar navigation, and 2,200 horsepower engines, technology Japan couldn't match. Their best fighter, the Ki-84, still couldn't reliably intercept them. While atomic bombs get credit for ending the war, Japanese documents show leaders knew defeat was inevitable after the March firebombing. As early as May 1945, Foreign Minister Shigenori Togo was sending cables to Japan's ambassador in Moscow, begging for Soviet help to negotiate peace. Prince Kono had already warned the emperor in February 1945 that continuing the war could lead to a communist revolution. After seeing Tokyo's destruction, that fear grew. The emperor's diary shows he was determined to end the war all spring and summer 1945. Admiral Takajiro Onishi, who created the kamikaze program, committed ritual suicide on August 16, 1945, one day after the emperor's surrender speech. His suicide note apologized to kamikaze pilots and urged young Japanese to work for peace. He refused a second to make his death quick, suffering for 15 hours as penance. While not directly caused by the Tokyo firebombing, his death showed military leaders knew America's conventional bombing had already defeated Japan. Let's recap the key stats one more time, they're staggering. March 9 to 10, 1945, 334 B-29s participated, 279 dropped bombs, 1,665 tons of incendiaries, 15.8 square miles destroyed, 267,171 buildings gone, 83,793 confirmed dead, over 100,000 likely, 40,918 injured, 1.8 million homeless. American losses, 14 B-29s, 96 airmen. For the whole firebombing campaign, 66 cities attacked, 178 square miles destroyed, 300,000 to 400,000 civilians killed, 8.5 million homeless, 60 to 70% of industrial capacity destroyed. Historians agree on the impact. The U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey said the firebombing made Japan realize resistance was hopeless, pushing them to surrender. Japanese historian Katsumoto Satomu, who spent decades studying the raids, said, "The March 10th raid showed Japan was totally helpless against American technology. The atomic bombs ended the war, but the firebombing already proved we'd lost." American historian Richard Frank wrote, "The firebombing killed more Japanese than both atomic bombs combined and destroyed more urban area than any bombing campaign in history." The morality debate still goes on. Curtis LeMay defended himself in his 1965 autobiography, "We're at war with Japan."
Do you want to kill Japanese, or do you want Americans to die?
Historian Michael Sherry called the raids terror bombing, while others like Richard Frank say they ended the war faster, saving lives that would have been lost in an invasion. Japanese courts have ruled the raids weren't illegal under international law at the time, but a 2007 Tokyo District Court called them indiscriminate and inhumane. Unlike Hiroshima and Nagasaki, with their peace museums and global recognition, the Tokyo firebombing is still relatively unknown. Tokyo's government runs a small memorial hall, and Katsumoto Sayatome's private center preserves survivor stories. Nuclear weapons overshadowed conventional bombing in post-war memory, even though the firebombing was just as destructive. That selective memory shapes how we see the end of the war. So here's the bottom line. On March 9 to 10, 1945, 279 American B-29s created the deadliest firestorm in history. They killed 83,000 to 100,000 people, destroyed 267,171 buildings, and proved Japan couldn't stand against American air power. Survivors saw more than a destroyed capital. They saw the technological and industrial gap that made defeat certain. Every major Japanese leader who left records admitted it, even if surrender took 5 more months and atomic bombs. The Tokyo firebombing showed modern war had become industrialized destruction. Japan entered the war thinking spiritual strength could beat material advantage, but courage meant nothing against an enemy that turned death into science and production stats. When Emperor Hirohito toured the ruins on March 18, 1945, he saw what his people already knew. Japan faced not just military defeat, but possible annihilation. The B-29s turned 15.8 square miles of Tokyo to ash in 6 hours. Their message was clearer than any propaganda: resist, and you'll be wiped out. The 1,665 tons of incendiaries didn't just burn buildings. They burned Japan's last illusions of winning the war. In the ashes of 267,171 buildings lay the end of Imperial Japan's ambitions and a new truth. When your enemy can destroy your cities at will while you can't touch theirs, the war is already over. The debate over whether it was necessary or moral will never fade, but the facts are clear. The Tokyo firebombing was the deadliest air raid in history. It killed more people than either atomic bomb, and it proved beyond doubt that Japan had lost the war. Survivors knew the end was near, because they'd seen the future of warfare, and it belonged entirely to their enemies.